Let me try to do this because our shit is really complex. There was a betrayal here in the North America where different groups of Aboriginal, indigenous people hated each other and were willing to partner with whites to kill off other groups of people here. And there was a slave trade. Most people don't know that there was a slave trade between the Indians and white people. Okay, so there was a betrayal here that somebody from somewhere else was cool. The same way we embrace tethers and shit, like that silly bitch from the Virgin Islands is talking about she wants Trump shot. You're not even from here. How many black people going to get hurt off that dumb Caribbean bitch running her mouth? Okay, go down to Virgin Islands. And in fact, if you got so much smoke, how come that bitch didn't have any smoke for what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to black girls from the Virgin Islands? You ain't heard that bitch say nothing, have you? You mad at Trump? That's something real local happening on your island where you from. Okay, and just that kind of shit. But look, so you had an Indian slave trade. You had the mulatto type English people, okay? Because understand, this is why I don't like Pan-Africanists, because Pan-Africanists are liars and they're backstabbers too. All of them. You show me a Pan-Africanist, and let me be clear, a non-reciprocative Pan-Africanist is always a delusional liar. They can't not be. I'm a reciprocal Pan-Africanist. I'm for you if you're for me. If you're not for me, fuck you. I won't hurt you. I don't wish anything for you, but get your damn hand out my pocket. Come out my pocket, get your hand off my plate. Their thing is they want their hand in their pocket, their hand on our plate, and fuck us. I can't work with that. The Pan-Africanists tell you how glorious Africa is. And the glorious of Africa, you heard about those folks that went and murdered all the kids in school in Uganda, just butchered boys and girls. That's Africa. That's the shit that these lying Pan-Africanists won't tell you. So anyway, in England, the little Moors, whatever, mixed people who were running England and Europe, because those were ruling black families, they sold out. And what ended up happening is when they had the little civil war in England and they decided to get rid of the black people in charge, or however that is, a huge number of people who had been black or of African descent that were in England, Ireland, and Scotland, right, and Wales, were sold into slavery here in the Americas as well. So there's a betrayal over there. And then, of course, the regular shit, the 419 scammer Africans selling one another to white people, and liars like Molefi Asante. And there are a whole bunch of so-called Pan-Africanists, elders and shit who lie and say Africans didn't sell anyone. If you'll butcher 50 school children, why wouldn't you sell someone a few hundred years ago when that was common practice? So they're liars, and they're liars. And unlike, which is why I hated the movie Stud King, I used to volunteer for the Embassy of Benin before it became cool, before there was a damn movie. And I'm talking about 20 plus years ago. It's amazing some of the stuff you do in your life before folks are interested. And why was the people from Benin, the government of Benin, was going on tours to apologize for their role in killing, murdering, and enslaving and shipping us over here. They said so, and you have dumb fuck Molefi Asante and all these other people who call themselves African scholars saying that no Africans saw anybody, and people says we did. And the reason our country is fucked up and backwards is we've been cursed for what we did to one another. And we get all these liar Pan-Africanists that said every single solitary African was kidnapped and taken by white people. And yet you go to Africa and you see the big ass castles. Well, who built the fucking castle? You really think white people came to swampy ass coastal Africa full of malaria and diseases to build castles? when their asses couldn't even survive in the climate until like after, say, 1910, when they had treatments for yellow fever and malaria. White folk couldn't even handle being in Africa and tropical part. This is why white folks in places like Kenya, South Africa in particular, on the Western Cape, that's not far from the Arctic Circle. So you have different sort of weather in Cape Town than what you would have in Mpumalanga in South Africa, because you got malaria and shit like that. These white folks went to Namibia. There were some people there, but most of Africa, I mean, sub-Saharan Africa, you know, or nigger Africa, because the ones in North Africa were so busy fucking white holes and shit from the Caucasus region until they bleached their asses out of existence. So they're like nasty Arabs who don't know who the hell they are. The part of Africa that, you know, the darker Negroes are from, that can't stand one another, white people didn't have a big presence there. Not until they invented drugs that could deal with the parasitic diseases and other stuff. It's just a fact, right? So where were white people in Africa? So they would say white people did everything. White folks were in a couple of places. They were in Algeria in large numbers, over 1 million there, over 1 million in Southern Africa, up to like 4 or 5 million there, right? Maybe 1.5 million in Algeria. You had like 150,000 to 200,000 in Kenya, right? Between Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, and Cape Verde, maybe you had 500,000, white settlers in the Portuguese Africa, right? And the Belgians had like upwards of 1 million in the Congo. All right, so you put all that together, and it's not 10 million white people. There was, out of at least 120, 150, Africans were overwhelmingly you can't go in and kick people's asses in such small numbers. Well, so in South Africa they did, and Kenya kind of, right? And, I left out Namibia, but you know, these numbers were small. The armies that went through Africa, that conquered Africa, weren't that big. They had, you know, better weapons. They just mow motherfuckers down with machine guns and shit.